Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is match day review showtime as it is Sunday evening. I'm pleased to say that once again I'm joined by co-host Reese of German Gills, and you're all subscribing, so we don't need to do that bit. And of course, for the second time this week, you're lucky to have the brilliant opinions of Dave Salmon, who is the voice of Morecambe FC on Beyond Radio. He is making his second appearance of the week and is definitely classed as friend of the channel. Now, Dave, good morning, and better internet this time rather than last time when you was using some dodgy Greek Wi-Fi.
Honestly, Matt, I had a good holiday. Thanks for asking. Yeah, yes, much better because I'm on my super fast broadband in my home studio rather than on my hotel balcony in Zante, where if you watch the preview, you'll know it was it was a little bit in and out, but we got the general gist in me, so we should be okay today, hopefully.
Yeah, we should be fine, and hopefully the audio will match the mouth movements today. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Dave's dodgy internet stream. We are here, of course, to talk about Gillingham's 1-0 win at the Mazuma Mobile Stadium on Saturday afternoon. A game that I think is fair to say, probably, if it was a film, would go straight to DVD. And I've written my quick paragraph. That is the opening line as a summary before we get into the nitty-gritty. And I wrote a match of half chances. But in the end, it was probably Gillingham's extra quality / depth that got us over the line. Reese, I will come to you first. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
I think that's mostly accurate. I mean, you seem to nail them each week, these kind of summaries, but I think that's pretty accurate. It was, yeah, like you say, if it was a film, it goes straight to DVD. This match, it was, yeah, I mean, it was not the most entertaining of viewing, really, and we can just be happy we've come out on the positive side of that. And it must be even worse from a Morecambe perspective to watch a whole 90 minutes of that and then to have nothing to show for that. But it wasn't great viewing, but we bumbled over the line in the end. So your summary is pretty accurate, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the full match back late last night, Dave, courtesy of Reese, who's helping me out at the moment. I think the only thing that kept me going was knowing that around 76 minutes we were going to score a winner. Unfortunately, you two didn't have that luxury of knowing what was coming, watching it live. But yeah, just sum up quickly before we get into the whys and wherefores from Morecambe's point of view.
We played significantly better than we did against Walsall on the opening day of the season. We looked far more cohesive. We looked far more like a Derek Adams team. We probably should have scored in the first half. We had one in particular, really, really good chance. Probably absolutely should have hit the target, and we didn't. And we always knew you were going to come on strong in the second half. You got the quality off the bench, and I think it's a sign of a promotion challenging team. Really, good sides find a way to win when you're not playing at your best, and unfortunately for us, that's exactly what you did.
Yep, I can't argue with that at all. Like I say, I have watched it back in full. Thank you, Reese.
Yes,
we'll go back to 2 p.m. as we always do, and team news came in for Morecambe. It was a 4-2-3-1, and there was a significant omission in the back line for the Shrimps in the fact that George Ray was missing with injury. So it was Moore in goal, a back four of Hendry, Songu, who was captaining the side, Stott and Tutonda. And then in front was a pairing of White and Jones, and then a trio of Tollett, McAdam and Edwards supporting lone striker Hope. For Gillingham, more injury problems, 3 changes from the starting 11 from last week's win against Carlisle. We lined up in the same system with Jake Turner in goal, a back four of Hutton, Amar, Ogie and Clark. Mackenzie and Little were protecting, and then it was Nolan, Johnny Williams and Jaden Clark tasked with supporting Jacob Wakelin, the lone striker. I've written down, gentlemen, first 10 minutes, nondescript, game bitty and lacking fluency. 1 shot blocked at source for each side, crosses cleared comfortably. Not a lot else.
I literally have nothing to add to that.
I kept changing it. I kept writing first 2 minutes is quite 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Oh, we actually going to have any highlights here? But no, the first half chance did come for Morecambe though, Dave, and there was a missed kick from our goalkeeper, Jake Turner, I think from a set play, which landed at the feet of Tollett, I believe it was, in the middle of the park, and he managed to do well and ride a couple of challenges, drive into a dangerous area and struck his shot well enough, but it was straight at Jake Turner, who was comfortable enough tipping the ball over the bar before coming and claiming said set piece. But yeah, you must have been encouraged by that early forward from Ben Tollett, who was a player that you've got fairly high hopes for.
I've got high hopes for Ben. He's never played in the Football League before until this season. He's 29. He's played all of his career in the National League with quite good success, really. But you saw yesterday a bit more of a flash about what he is as a player, and he likes to get the ball and run at people. Doesn't mind riding challenges, trying to dribble, and if it doesn't work, he'll try it again. And I thought it was a good shot, actually. I don't quite agree that your keeper comfortably tipped it over the bar. I think he quite awkwardly got it over for a corner. To be honest, I think he looked a bit shaky personally.
Okay.
But he did what he had to do, I suppose, to get it over the bar. But it was great that we'd finally had a shot on target. And I know that sounds like you're picking at the tiniest of crumbs of comfort, but considering we had nothing at all on target against Walsall or against Huddersfield in the Cup on Tuesday, it was good to finally get a decent effort on goal.
Reece, I'll come to you, former goalkeeper. I'm looking at an angle that's not brilliant. We've got these new camera angles, and it's still just one camera for Sky Sports Plus and that type of thing. Was it? You might have had a better view than I did. Dave probably certainly has because he's in the ground. But I thought Jake was fairly comfortable. But was it more awkward than maybe I've indicated?
I actually think it had a slight nick on the way through as well from the shot. It was slightly deflected as well. When that sometimes can put you off. You have to readjust. So I have to give a little bit of credit to Jake turning it over the bar. He probably made it look more comfortable than it was, because I think any deflected shot will be challenging for any goalkeeper to have to adjust to. So yeah, I think would he save that 10 times out of 10? I'd hope so. But I think he had to use all of his frame to tip it over the bar and adjust his body because of the deflective shot. But I think, like you say, it comes from a mistake from him. So I feel like it's his due diligence to have to go and clear that up himself, because it was a really poor kick out from him. And I don't even know who it was to. It was just awful. It was a miss kick, or if it was a miss kick, was it meant to fly over the top? Was he meant to get air on it? I didn't quite understand the kick out at all.
It reminded me of me trying to play golf, to be fair. That would have been very much me off the first tee. Absolutely topped the hell out of it, and then probably would have gone straight to the 19th, to be fair.
Yeah, and I think but he made amends of it with the save, but yeah, he didn't need to put himself in that situation. But yeah, it was poor from Jake Turner, but then made amends. That's probably the best way to describe it.
And then after this quiet start, it was Morecambe that certainly came alive and took the game by the scruff of the neck to a degree, at least. And I think there was another half chance, wasn't there, Dave? I think we were very sloppy with the ball a few times, giving it away. Shad Ogie in particular just kept passing it to red shirts, which was a bit of a concern. And then I think he then tried to rectify his own error, akin to what Jake had done earlier, but ended up giving away a free kick. I think it was Jones, your centre midfielder, who put in a really good ball, and it might have been Jamie Stott who got on the end of it. But sort of was falling into the ball rather than making a clean contact, and sort of landed on it and scuffed it to Jake Turner. But again, you must have been encouraged. It was another ball into a dangerous area, and it was, like you say, it was another step in the right direction from the first two games that you've seen in terms of another shot on target.
Yeah,
to a degree.
To a degree, yeah. We were very encouraged at this point, Matt, to be honest. It was a great ball in from Callum Jones, free kick from about 30 yards out on the right. And it was Jamie Stott who was trying to poke it in at the back post. And one of those, he didn't quite get enough of a connection on it. Comfortable save to Turner's right-hand side. You hope that that flies into the bottom corner and he properly connects with it. But it was encouraging at that point. I think, as you say, Matt, we were well on top. And I think at that moment, you probably couldn't have argued too much if we had have nicked the lead. And we were very, very encouraged, I think.
Yeah, certainly so, yeah. I can't disagree with that. You were on top. We was certainly the architects of around downfall too much, Reece, but that's not Morecambe's problem at the end of the day. If you win the ball back well or you're given it, then you go and try and use it to the best you can, and that's what Morecambe were doing. Finally, though, we had something resembling a half chance, and I thought it was really good to see from Max Amer, who was, I think it's fair to say, of the trio of centre-halves that we've got at the football club, Max is your defender's defender. We know what we get from Max. He does exactly what he says on the tin. He heads it, he clears it, he wins his tackles, he organises, and he's solid. But it was great to see him yesterday, and I think this is probably something, again, to do with Mark Bonner and wanting players to express themselves, which we touched on last week against Carlisle. I thought a couple of times first half, as the game wore on, he decided to take the ball and step into midfield, which then caused Morecambe a problem, because they've then got to decide whether they go and press and we can pass through them, or you just let them keep running into their half, and then they're not sure when to engage. And he did it a couple of times, and I think on this occasion he played a really good ball out to Ramo Hutton on the right-hand side. He sort of fainted to go outside, went in and clipped a ball far post for Jaden Clark, I think, was arriving at the back post, who, at first glance, I thought it was him that had headed it wide, but it wasn't. I think the defender done well to get back in and head it wide, but it was head it behind for a goal kick. corner. Sorry, we're doing well here. But yeah, it was the first real sign of intent, and I was very encouraged by the fact that Max Amer's now playing with that type of leadership and confidence to step into midfield and trust his own ability that I think he does have in terms of being able to use the football fairly well.
Yeah, and I think also when he's been given that freedom to do something like that, it gives the team more options, doesn't it? And I think if you're playing against a team that has a variety of options or an increased amount of options throughout the game, it will ask questions of your opposition. And if you ask questions of your opposition, more often than not, they're more likely to make a mistake and openings start to reveal themselves. And I think, like you say, that was the first opening we had in that half, and we know Hutton can put a decent ball in. So Max Amer knows to get the ball over to our creative players. And that kind of play with Max is was encouraging. He did it more often throughout the second half as well, and he had a lot more freedom to move up. And like you say, he's a defender's defender, but let's not shy away from the fact he can score a goal or two as well. He has done, and he can create a lot of opportunities. And I think he's been given. It looked like yesterday he was being given the green light to be able to do that moving forward into the midfield area, which was very promising to see.
Yeah, and because we've already sort of touched on it, and we will again, that Shadogi was struggling. Shadogi looked like a player that obviously didn't start the first game of the season, and was a little bit rusty. But yeah, and we know that it's Shad and Connor Masterson are the defenders that will do that in terms of running over halfway line in possession. So it was great to see Max take up the mantle. Then there was a penalty claim, Dave. And I'm calling that a penalty claim in the loosest sense of the word, because for me, I've written down, again, poor from Shadogi, gave the ball away. Hallam Hope runs into the box, and I've written down falls over.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Matt. I said at the time on commentary that no, he's lost the chance there, and it was just your defender just being a bit too big, and knowing that he wasn't going to get the shot away, went to ground. Nothing doing there for me.
Absolutely the right call. And then, Reece, the game reverted to type. From the early period of the game, it felt like it just became very flat again. There was plenty of effort. I'm not disputing that at all from both sides, but there was little or no quality on show from both 11s, and it just became really, really scrappy for a period again, didn't it? And I think at that point, everyone was probably thinking more about their half-time cup of tea, soft drink or pie rather than what was happening going on the pitch, because it wasn't a great watch.
Quite often, what happens during those moments, when I'm making my content and I'm worried we're not going to even get a highlight in the game, I often have little places in there where I say just a chat about what's happened. At least I can put something in the first half, and I was using a lot of that yesterday because I was genuinely concerned nothing was going to happen. But as you're probably about to say, Morecambe had a good opportunity to go one up just before half time.
There was one, yeah, but I want to talk to Dave about something before then, and this centres around the referee. Max Clark clipped the ball in behind with about 10 minutes to go in the half, and Jacob Wakeling, for me, has definitely got the right side of Jamie Stott, I think it was. Jacob Wakeling is away and on goal if he's not having his shirt pulled. Stott has got a handful of shirt there, and for some reason, referee just waves it away. What was your take on it, Dave? Because I think that was that your side?
Our commentary position is the opposite side to the camera.
Right.
So we had a very good view of it, and I wouldn't disagree, Matt. I think the ball got clipped in, and I think Jacob was away, and Jamie had just misread the flight of the ball, and he was goal side of his man, and he definitely tugs his shirt. There's no question about that. And I think the little tug of the shirt then allows Jamie Stott to then get back in front of Jacob Wakeling, so he can then make the clearance. And I think we perhaps got a bit lucky there. I think if he blows up for a foul, and don't get me wrong, I think the referee was very good on the whole. I think all the officials were very good on the whole yesterday, personally. But I think it's fair to say we perhaps got a little bit fortunate there, because if the referee pulls that one back, is he last man? Is it dog so? I don't know. It would have been a close call, but for me, it was a foul. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then, like you say, you then go down the road of is Jacob quick enough to get away, and is the defender quick enough to cover? And I'd say, probably from a slightly biased point of view, that I'm not sure Songu's quick enough to get out there. So then you have to start thinking about, is it a red card offence, Reece? But for me, definite foul, in agreement with Dave. Is Jacob too honest? Should Jacob go down? If he goes down, he knows he's winning a free kick, and we can at worst load the box and get something into a danger area. But for me, and I tend to agree with Dave. I thought the referee was all right, but he's got that one hugely wrong for me.
I'm not in favour of players going down to try and make the most situations. I like integrity and honesty in players. It's one of my. I really like that when players offer that. But obviously that doesn't happen across the football pitch and across the leagues as well. It varies. To this specific situation, what I find really interesting, I wonder if the referee, he saw the incident and he knows it's probably a foul, but he knows that he could probably not give it and probably get away with not giving it, knowing the fact that if he gives it, he has to make therefore a subsequent much more difficult decision. And I wonder if he paid the percentages there and went, you know what, I'll just let that slide. I don't know. I don't know. The integrity of me and referee suggests that he probably should give a foul if it's a foul. But I wonder if that did cross his mind, and maybe that might have been a reason why he didn't give it, because he knows the decision after that's going to have to be a very challenging one.
And then quickly, just to finish off on that subject then, Dave, do you think maybe if Mr. Wakelin is running through the middle of the pitch rather than on the left-hand touchline, that the referee then makes a different decision because it becomes a more obvious goal-scoring opportunity if he's running dead centre of the penalty area rather than from a sort of a longer touchline?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Matt, at all. I think it's one of those where that area of the pitch, as Reece says, it's an easier non-decision to make, isn't it? I think from that point of view. I think across the board, though, the referee was trying to let the game flow, and I think that's part of the reason why he didn't give that decision either. There were a couple of niggly ones as well. I think Max Amer left his mark on a couple of Morecambe players throughout the game, actually, especially in the second half. But and that was allowed to continue. So I think generally he was letting the game flow. If I was a Gillingham fan, I'd be disappointed if it wasn't given as a free kick. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at. That's absolutely fine. Right, Mr. Totonda, we've not spoken about Disco Dave yet, and we always like talking about Disco Dave. I think on commentary it was mentioned that him against Jack Nolan was potentially an interesting and intriguing matchup, because I think it's fair to say that you either get an 8 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10 with Dave Totonda most of the time. He doesn't have much middle ground. He's either absolutely brilliant or he looks like he shouldn't even be playing pub football. I thought he was good yesterday, up against an attacking right back and a very good right winger in Romeo Hutton and Jack Nolan. But he showed his attacking side of the game in the next phase. Done brilliant down the left-hand side to burst over halfway, played a 1-2, I think, with one of the centre midfielders, and then puts a really, really good ball into our box. I think there's a slight nick on the way and the ball ends up falling at the feet of Guion Edwards. He has to do better, doesn't he, Dave? A player of his quality, again, someone you spoke highly of on the preview show. He just doesn't get his feet sorted out quick enough and ends up dragging it horribly wide.
Well, what I would say on that is, and I'm going to talk probably about look and rub of the green quite a bit as we go through the second half, Matt, but I think what I would say there is, and firstly, Dave Totonda, man of the match by an absolute mile, best player on the pitch for either team for me, had Jack Nolan absolutely in his pocket throughout the game, and to the point where Nolan got substituted because he was that ineffective. It was unlucky because it was a great move by us down the left-hand side, and for Dave to then pull the ball back, it just takes a nick off the back of the heel of Max Amer, and that lifts the ball off the ground just by a few inches. And that was the difference between Guion Edwards smashing it into the corner with his laces and shanking it wide with his shin. And that's what happened. So we didn't quite get that rub of the green. I think if it doesn't take the nick, Guion smashes it in and we take the lead. But I suppose the defender did what he had to do, didn't he? And that's why it went wide.
Yeah, but again, it was encouraging signs. I'm not entirely sure that I agree with what Dave says there, Reece, about Jack Nolan being effective. I mean, just look at the ball for the goal. Absolutely delicious crossfield pass for Romeo Hutton. But we'll get to that in a little while. I jest. Gills finally created another chance. Literally on the half-time whistle, and it was Robbie McKenzie who done really, really well. And he's been a player that I've been super impressed with so far, playing in that Ethan Coleman role. I think we're allowed to call it now. Ethan took it over from Sean Williams last season, and Robbie's been absolutely brilliant in there. Makes an absolutely superb tackle, which allows Romeo Hutton to nick possession, and he drives forward and manages to feed Johnny Williams, who gets it out of his feet. And he sort of goes with the outside of his right foot, which was a little bit surprising, but it was a bit of the old-fashioned Terry toe punt a little bit. But Stuart Moore was forced to get down well to his left-hand side and claw it behind the post for a corner. But that was probably as good as it got for us in the first half, wasn't it?
I think so. And it's the only chance I really remember from that half. I think it's the only one that made the highlight reel for me. And, Johnny Williams, it's good to see him do that. He scored last week and it's probably similar-ish distance as well. Yeah. Probably. And so actually it was quite nice to see him having a go. And, we know it's in his locker. He knows it's in his locker. That's why he's pulled it out the bag and he's questioned Moore, who's had to make a save. And I think Moore makes a meal out of it. He does his job, of course, puts it around the post, but he makes it look challenging, and I think it really was. But regardless, it was a shot on target and something to cheer about in terms of attacking prowess for Gillingham in the first half, which was nil on the most part.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't the best, but as Dave's alluded to, and we'll get to that more in the second half, we weren't at our best, but we've managed to grind it out, and I think that is a very encouraging sign. And we'll talk about the players that were missing at the end of the game once we've gone through that timeline. But at half time, Dave, you must have been fairly content as a Morecambe fan. Like you said, it was a much more cohesive display than you'd seen against Walsall on the opening day. Shots on target are always nice, a step in the right direction. I suppose Derek Adams' team talk would have been more of the same, essentially.
Well, Derek Adams, as you know, Matt, plays in a very specific way. And against Walsall on the opening day of the season, we didn't have that identity. We didn't have that cohesion. And that's why we played so poorly and slipped to a defeat. It was the same against Huddersfield on Tuesday in the Carabao Cup. But certainly in the first half, we got the team selection right. We got our midfield dynamic was spot on. I thought when bringing Tom White into the starting lineup, he showed his EFL experience, and we were solid at the back. I think, as Reece alludes to there, that the shot at the end of the first half by Johnny Williams is the only effort that you have. I think it was a much better save, actually, Reece, than you're giving Stuart more credit for there. It looked certainly in real time in the stadium. He is at full stretch to get down, and it's a good tip round the post from quite a powerful shot, really. But that was your only effort. So I think Derek Adams would have been very, very happy all in. We just couldn't find the back of the net. But general play, absolute chalk and cheese from our performance against Walsall. So yeah, we were pretty happy at half time, I think.
And from our point of view, Reece, I'd imagine Mr. Bonner would have probably got into us a little bit. He'd have probably said, there were bits that were okay, but there was probably more bits that needed tweaking and adjusting and improving on. And I thought we actually came out with a bit better intensity at the start of the second half. We seemed to be pressing a bit higher and trying to stop Morecambe at source. And I think there was one little phase of play straight away, wasn't it? Jaden Clark did really well. Sort of got the ball wide on the left and jinked inside the right back and drifted towards the box. Played it into Jacob, who, but unfortunately, just overhit the return pass, and I think it either went through to Stuart Moore or for a goal kick. But it was certainly more intent, and we were trying to play higher up the pitch straight away. And then we had the Jack Nolan free kick, which summed up Jack's day. Unfortunately, it just didn't quite happen for him. But that's going to happen. It's League Two at the end of the day. But were you more encouraged after the first 5 minutes of the second half?
Yeah, I was actually. I felt like we came out. We looked like I wouldn't say it was a big rocket up the backside from Bonner, but he was probably questioning a lot of the decisions the players were making in the first half, which made them reevaluate how they were going to approach the second half. And we did play a bit more on the front foot, and that just brings a little more confidence, and it reminds Morecambe that we do have something in the tank to try and get you. So it was good. We came out with that intent to ask the questions of the Morecambe defence and play a bit more in their their half, as it were. So yeah, I was a bit more encouraged than, let's say, the first half entirely.
And then, unfortunately, it went back to being bitty and stop-start and a bit sort of attritional again. But then I'm trying to think who had the next chance. I think we had, again, it's not a game of clear opportunities, as you already mentioned. I think Armani Little was just starting to get more of the ball, which was encouraging as well. I think he tried to slip a ball in between. It might have been Songu and the right back. Looked like it was overhit, but Clark did well, Max Clark this time, to manage to keep it in. And I think a shot got bundled behind for a corner that was either cleared or claimed. We then made a change, 2 changes, in fact. This was around the hour mark. Ollie Hawkins and Jules Lapsley were both the ones that were chosen from the bench, which I think was understandable. They were the most senior on that bench, apart from Mr. Morris, who we forgot to congratulate earlier in the week, is now officially the oldest player ever to feature for Gillingham, surpassing a certain Andy Hessenthaler's record. So congratulations to the cat on that, as I go off on a little tangent. But yeah, it was Jacob Wakelin and Johnny Williams withdrawn. I think Jacobs was probably tactical in the sense that Ollie would give us a focal point that we were lacking. Johnny probably still getting himself back up to fitness, so it made sense, and so is George himself. So that was a sensible swap. We'll get to them in a short while, but for me, it felt like they immediately made us better. I think straight away, Jules Lapsley got on the end of a through ball and tried to cut it back for Ollie, but I think it was good defending from Stott that prevented the ball getting through to the front man. Yeah, and it just felt at that stage we were just starting to gain a little bit of momentum.
I think one of the big thing for me when Hawkins came on, and Lapsley, he held the game well after he came on. But one thing with Hawkins, I think it gave that sort of stability up the top, which I think we kind of lacked.
Yeah.
And he just, everything that came towards him, he did something with it. He held it up relatively well and made it very difficult to, he helped us gain possession in Morecambe's half a lot more frequently than it was previously he was on the pitch. So that made a huge impact moving forward, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And what was your take at this sort of time then Dave? Because we're getting into that sort of that final third of the game, and you're probably aware that you've had the better chances at that stage, but the old Achilles heel at the moment is a lack of cutting edge. Did you just sense that the tide was maybe turning a little bit? And you said earlier you knew that Gillingham would come on stronger second period. Was you just starting to sense that in the ground that was happening?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't any surprise about the changes that you made. It was always, if it was, the longer it went 0-0, the more obvious that Ollie Hawkins was going to come on as the big man up front, and I think that was the right move. Lapsley always impressed me when I've seen him play. And he added that extra energy, but Derek reacted to that as well. We made a change in formation. We brought Jordan Slew on a few minutes later. We took Tom White, one of our midfielders, off, and we went more to a 4-3-3, and we moved Gwion Edwards from the left over to his more natural right-hand side, and I think we countered that pretty well. We had a couple of reasonable half chances that we put both wide. I think Tollett had an effort, and then McAdam probably should have hit the target. He shanked it wide, and it was a little bit of to and fro. So at that point, we reacted quite well, and I thought as it ticked over to about the 70th minute mark, we thought, well, do you know what, we could be on for a good point here, and sadly, it wasn't quite to be.
Yeah, I remember because we spoke about Jordan Slew, myself, and me, you, and Tom. I think at the game at Priestfield last season, you said, "Oh, because he was starting that day, and you weren't overly keen on it." But I thought he ended up having a fairly decent season, so it was a bit of a surprise to see Slew actually not in the starting 11, and he scored in the return fixture last season as well, didn't he? In the 3-2 game.
It's difficult to get Jordan into the team because we've got Gwion Edwards, who's going to start every week when he's fit. Derek likes Ben Tollett over on the right hand side, and that's part of the reason why Gwion's been moved across to the left. He's predominantly a right sided player, but he's adapting to the left hand side, and that leaves nowhere for Jordan to go really, because he is a wide left player. He's not a centre forward. He's not a number 10. So with the players that we've got at the moment, I think Jordan might struggle to get in the team. And for me personally, I think he is better as an impact sub.
Okay.
Really. Coming on with half an hour to go, big, physical, he's tall, he's strong, and he can sort of bulldoze his way through. And I think that's probably where he's best used. Now, whether he starts later on in the season, we'll wait and see, I suppose. But certainly a great bench option to have.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse as a defender than having to defend against pace, which Jordan Slew has in abundance when you're tired and you've been chasing the ball for 70 minutes already. You mentioned to and fro, and there was a couple of chances from Morecambe that Dave's already alluded to, for McAdam and Tollett, and then there was one for Gills, Jack Nolan. It was probably his best moment of the game, in fairness, apart from his pre-assist for the goal. Tongue is firmly in cheek with that again, Morecambe fans, before you shout at me. He made it all himself, didn't he? Drifted in from the right-hand side, which we know he can do, and he hit a very good shot from 30 yards. The only problem was it was straight down the throat of Stuart Moore, but that was probably Jack's highlight on the day. It just was an afternoon where not much came off.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. We know what he's capable of. But I think it's important to understand that some of the key players are going to have some off days as well. And if you can rise, if the squad or the team can rise to that occasion and still bumble themselves over the line, then it's a good sign of a good squad, as Dave said right at the start. And it's okay that some of your key players have days off on the day, and if you can still get over the line, then it's a good sign that for me that is.
And we've got more key players now. That's been the benefit of this window, haven't we? I think it was fair to say last season that Johnny Williams was played out of position a fair amount, so wasn't as much of a threat as he should be. And I think it was not entirely this, but if you stopped Connor Mahoney playing last season, you did well to stop Gillingham playing to a degree. Whereas now you've got to stop Jack Nolan. If Jack Nolan's not having a good game, you've got Johnny Williams in the middle of the park. If you stop Johnny Williams, you've got Armani Little pulling the strings from deeper and spraying it about. You've got Jacob Wakelin who can run in behind and stretch defenders. You've then got the luxury of Ollie Hawkins and Jules Lapsley coming on. And we have to remember, these are two players that are actually available for transfer. So were deemed surplus to requirements a couple of months ago and are now coming on and being a key part of what we're doing. We've just got more threats, which ultimately helps us out to win more football matches.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that we can have, when Lapsley and Hawkins came on yesterday, it even though I knew they were on the bench, I just thought, oh wow, we actually have some impacts going on. It's just not we're not taking players off because they're tired for the next game. We're bringing players on that can make a difference. I think that's a subtle difference compared to last season that we have this season. Is that we can bring players on and have some form of impact, which obviously is paid off.
Yes, and unfortunately, Dave, sorry for you, but the next big moment was what turned out to be the winning goal, and it certainly won't be in any goal of the month competition, but wins is wins, goals is goals, and points is points, and I think it's fair to say that these type of games are the ones that maybe sort out the also-rans and the successful football teams, but we are 44 games away from any type of promotion talk for anybody. But it was nice to see Gills actually get on the score sheet, because we do know there is a good player in there. We've just not seen it enough for Gillingham. It's a mess, the goal. I think it's fair to say from everybody's point of view. The corner's overhit. It goes to the back post. Jack Nolan horribly shanks an effort that comes up and comes down with snow on it. It's so bad that it doesn't even have the decency to go out of play from Dave's point of view. Ramo Hutton, unfortunately for Dave, but fortunately for us, is alert at the far post and puts it back in the mixer. Shadowgi then has a wild swing at it, which is blocked. It comes out to Jaden Clark. He swings a leg at it and turns out to be a really good ball. And George Lapsley cannot miss from 2 yards out, middle of the 6-yard box. I think there was a quick glance to the assistant referee to make sure the dreaded flag hadn't gone up. And then he was off to have a cuddle with James Russell.
I don't know, Matt. I think it was a lovely, well-worked goal. I thought it was all very... I say that with tongue in cheek.
We can have a laugh on this show, can't we?
I think the word is pinball. That's it, and it all went in the right pockets for us at that particular. I mean, yeah, the swiped clearance of Nolan. I've got to say, actually, Hutton did first time cross it back to OG, and you say OG swung a leg at it. He had to work hard to swing a leg at it. He had his back to goal. He had to turn and get the shot away. I think which more than saved. And then when it came out, then the pinball re-ensued again, and then it was a whack across the box from Clark. But yeah, I think 95% of that was just complete pinball and fortuitous to a certain extent.
I was trying to hurry through it for Dave's sake, bless him. But Dave, from a Morecambe point of view, is there much that you've done wrong, or is it just one of them goals that's you just think that's what happens when stuff's not going your way?
You had two enormous slices of luck for the goal as well, gents. Jack Nolan shanks.
Well, I said that in fairness. Reece was trying to make it nicer than it was.
He shanks it that badly. If you look at the replay, he turns away and goes to walk back to the halfway line, almost in disgust that he sliced it so horribly, because he thought it was going to fly into the behind for a goal kick. It somehow dropped almost on the byline. So there's your first big stroke of luck. And then when Shadow gets the shot in, I thought it hit the post, actually, rather than Stu Moore saving it. I thought it came off the base of the post. But it comes back out straight to a Gillingham player. There's your other massive slice to look. It could have fallen to one of us and we'd have cleared it. Could have hit the post and gone wide. It didn't. It fell nicely for Clark. And because I think it was Hallam Hope, our number 9, actually, tracked Ogie back, tried to get his foot around the ball. He was literally lying on his back in the 6-yard box. And it was him who was playing George Lapsley onside. He looked quite a bit ahead of the rest of the players in the penalty area, and he was. But unfortunately, Hallam Hope was playing him a good yard onside, I think, actually, to be absolutely fair to the assistant referee. And as you say, Matt, he couldn't really miss. But you had two enormous slices of luck. But I think, as we've already said, when it's going your way, it's going your way. And that is the sign of a promotion-chasing team, 2 games in or not.
Too early.
I know, but you know what I mean, though, gents, don't you? When you've got that quality, you find a way to get the result and to get the goal that you need. And it was an absolute smash and grab, but 2 enormous slices of luck, which I don't think you'll have again all season, probably.
Dave keeps saying we had 2 enormous slices of luck. I'm pretty sure he's mentioned 3, to be fair to him. Jack Nolan's shank, the fact that it fell to Jaden Clark, and the fact that Hallam Hope was asleep in the 6-yard box. So there's 3 I counted already. So we'll move on quickly. I thought what Gills did really well was they quietened the game down fairly well after that, Reece. They managed to take the sting out of things. They slowed the pace and dictated the tempo that it was going to be played at. We made another change, which I thought was clever, because we've not seen Joe Bode really as a centre forward this season. He got half hour against Carlisle, but pre-season he's predominantly played from the side, which is new to him, and he's learning, and he's still a kid, and we understand that. But I thought it was sensible because it meant that we had pace either side as an outlet, because we weren't going to be doing anything too fancy at this point. If it comes into our box, we're going to edit and clear it, and we're going to say to Jaden Clark and Joe Bode, we're going to turn it round, and you're going to run and try and keep the ball for us. George Lapsley then got a yellow card, well deserved, a foul on Guion Edwards. I think it was on Dave Salmon, wasn't it? And then we went to like a rigid 4-4-1-1, just old school, 2 banks of 4, Jules supporting Ollie, and it was a case of, at this point, I think let's sit on what we've got, because we've done well to get ourselves in a position here in a poor game. How did you see the final period of the game? Was there any point where you thought we're under the cosh and that we was in any danger of losing the lead? Because I didn't think we was ever looked like that Morecambe not had enough wherewithal, but just didn't have enough quality to open us up to create a proper chance to equalise.
I think the nature of being 1-0 down the last 1-0 up, in the last sort of 10 minutes of game, there's always going to be that, it's never a comfortable lead regardless. And it only takes one moment. I was a bit disappointed occasionally. We still gave the ball away once or twice to give a free kick away, which Morecambe can then ping into the box. There was a couple of those in the last few minutes. I think Morecambe had a free kick, probably in the 93rd minute. They could have pinged it into the box. It didn't even seem to make it, so we were a bit lucky there, but I think yes, on the most part, we quietened the game down and made it as comfortable as possible. But I think with the nature of just being 1-0 up with that short amount of time to go is always going to be uncomfortable and nervy. But I've got to say, with Bode coming on, he just ran around trying to get the ball and keep it, and it was just that spark of energy that might have made that little bit of difference in the last sort of 5 or so minutes, just to keep us a bit more comfortable than the score, than being 1-0 up at that time normally does to you. So that was very promising to see.
Yeah, because it just felt like Carlisle last week when they scored and went to 2-1. You was almost expecting that Alamo type situation. It never came, and I didn't think much came from Morecambe as well. And we understand, their battles off the pitch, so they're having to work with what they're working with for reasons. But yeah, I just never felt like we was under siege. What was your take on the final period of the game day from a Morecambe point of view? Did you feel that you could have done more, or again, is it we're just having to bear with this team because of that's what it is at the moment?
Well, we bought Lee Angle on not long after you scored, so we had Angle and Hope. It effectively went 4-2-4 really, and tried to get it forward as quickly as possible. But you were very well drilled, as you'd expect a Mark Bonner side to be. Your 2 banks of 4, very, very solid indeed. And we couldn't play through you. We couldn't play over you. I think we had one half chance, I think, where Guion Edwards was on the right-hand side, and it was like a cross shot, which I think your keeper just about held on to. I think it looked a bit shaky, to be honest. I'd be slightly concerned if I was a Gillingham fan, maybe. But apart from that, we didn't look like having a direct shot on goal, and I think that was testament to how well you defended. And I think Mark Bonner got his tactics absolutely spot on.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And from our point of view, Reece, the last big chance of the 90 minutes actually came to us, and it was again, dare I say, it was probably our best bit of play in the entire game. I think it was Ramo, Hutt and Jules Lapsley, Armani Little were all involved as we kept it in the middle of the park. And then Lapo sort of found himself wide right and puts in a really good ball for Ollie Hawkins, who does absolutely everything you want your centre forward to do. He gets his centre half out of the way and he makes a solid contact, but unfortunately he's 3 or 4 inches too high and it cannons off the crossbar, and it just kept the game in the melting pot for a couple more minutes. But after that, I think Morecambe reverted to type in terms of what a team does that's 1-0 down with a minute to play. Everything was just launched into our box, and again, we were fairly comfortable. Max Amos, Ogie headed everything, and we were set up rigidly to just deal with any potential late threats, and we did it fairly well, and the final whistle came.
Yeah, and just to go back to the Hawkins chance, it was quite an interesting one for me, because on that right-hand side, you would suspect you're away from home, you're 1-0 up, it's like, let's say 3 or 4 minutes left to play. I was quite surprised he didn't try and keep possession in the corner longer. but actually probably a testament to the confidence we have in the team now is that actually, can we go and get a second to really like to make sure we get those 3 points? And you know, we're only only a couple of inches away from doing that. And you know, Hawkins scored a header at Swansea. You know, he headed that down into the ground back of the net. So obviously we know that's in his locker. And do you know what? If that cross comes in 10 times, he scores 8 of them, at least gets it on target 8 times.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, I just actually found it really compelling that we could have just ran to the corner and try and hold the ball, but in fact we went to go and get a second goal with 5 minutes to go. You know, and I think that's a sign of good confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a positive sign. Like you say, at that stage, you're trying to just run the clock down, aren't you? You're trying to waste time and that type of thing. You take extra few seconds over goal kicks and throw-ins, but there seems a real intensity to just go and put the game to bed. Dave, I want to come to you. I've got a couple of questions before we start wrapping this up. In terms of Morecambe, we've already said a couple of times it was a much more encouraging performance in terms of cohesiveness and looking like a Derek Adams side. But again, it was the same old issues from the first 2 fixtures that have come back to bite you on the arse, and that's the lack of cut and thrust and cutting edge in the final third. I think it was only 2 shots on target in all, despite being better with the football. So across 3 games, you've had 2 shots in target. It's fairly obvious at the moment where your problems lie.
100%, Matt, and we need to get this off our back soon as possible. I said at half time actually to a couple of people, like, "Oh, we're doing all right, aren't we? We could go on and nick this." I was like, we need to score, and we didn't score again. 3rd time this season we haven't scored, and the longer this run goes on, the more of a problem it's going to be for the whole squad, and you're going to get twitchy. You're going to get. We've got what we've got in the final third for reasons that we've explained. We have got some good players, we have got some good players in the final
Absolutely.
third, and I think we are going to score enough goals and performing, and I think our home form is going to be crucial to us staying up in general, really. But the longer the scoring run doesn't go on, we've got Doncaster away next week, which is, I know they lost yesterday, but that's not an easy 3rd fixture of the campaign by any stretch, is it really? We need to get the ball in the back of the net, and I think that will lift a little bit more pressure off us, really, and we might be a little bit less snatchy, shall we say, in the final third, because a couple of times yesterday, Guion Edwards' effort in the first half, like you say, a little bit snatched. Couple in the second half, we didn't hit the target. We should have. They were from range, but we should have tested the keeper on both occasions, and we didn't. So, get that goal, we can go on a bit further. But hopefully, it's not going to be too much of an Achilles heel for us, because if we don't score, we're not going to get any points at all.
Yeah, and I think we were very much in that boat at the start of 22-23. So we know what you're going through, and the longer it goes on, I mean, we scored 6 in 23 games. So I hope you don't have to go through anything like that, because that was painful. But yeah, I think there's some similarities between your squad as it stands at the moment and that squad that we had at the start of that season. Reece, from our point of view, Dave has already said it's a good sign, and he keeps using the P word, which I'm going to ban him from using for the rest of the show. But it is an encouraging sign, the fact that we were way off our best, way off of what we've seen against, you know, Watford in pre-season and Southend, Southampton's kids. I think was a decent performance, albeit behind closed doors, and certainly in spells against Carlisle on the opening day, we were way off it. But we have to remember that we had 8 players missing yesterday, 8 very good footballers as well, that would all be, you'd all say, are first team quality. So right, I'll do the list. It was Connor Masterson, Ethan Coleman, Josh Andrews, Aaron Rowe, Elliot Nevitt, Ewan Williams, Bradley Dack and Timmy Dieng, all unavailable through injury. Some of them we won't see for a few weeks still. Some of them we haven't seen at all this season, albeit it's a very embryonic campaign so far. But just how much more impressive does that make yesterday's result? Because we were down to the bare bones. I mean, you look at that bench, George Lapsley and Ollie Hawkins were essentially the only 2 you was really going to bring on to change the game in an offensive sense. And the only other experience was a keeper, and no one wants to be changing their keeper throughout 90 minutes. So does that make not the performance, but the result and the outcome even more encouraging and even more impressive?
I think it does, and actually, the fact that you can be down to your bare bones and still be competitive in this division is a testament to the depth and the squad that we've built, not just this season but over last season as well. And yeah, it's really encouraging. And this is, and you know, if you have these bare bone players and that's all you have in front of you, and you know, it's to be able to pull out results and be that competitive is a real strength. And in coming weeks, we're going to get some players back to fitness and back in the squad, and they're going to feel like, again, new transfers into the team.
Yeah.
It's only, you know, if this is if this is the most bare bones it's going to get, and it's only going to get better, then that is a really encouraging sign moving forward.
Yeah, because of them eight, Ethan Coleman, Josh Andrews, Elliot Nevitt, and certain Mr. Dack, obviously we've not seen at all in the first three fixtures. So come mid-September, it's like you say, it's almost like a little extra transfer window.
And also, on top of that, if this is your bare bones, these are opportunities for some players to really show Bonner what they can do in a competitive environment, right? So they're obviously going to be trying their best to try and retain their position when players do become available through recovering from injuries. So that also is probably an important part of this process as well, is that's why we can be competitive, because the players that are in these positions at the moment want to show that they are worthy of staying there when availability comes back in the whole squad.
Absolutely, yeah, and it is that from that point of view, it's very, very exciting, because they're 8 players that would make up a very, very good side on themselves. Dave, back to you from Morecambe's point of view, without being too blindingly obvious, what needs to change quickly for Morecambe for it to become a season of, I think it's fair to say, and I mean this with the most respect, it's going to be a season of struggle anyway, just because of the situation off the pitch. But what's got to change quickly for it to become a season of struggle that doesn't drift into one that ultimately ends with the trapdoor?
Makes you sick when you read out all those players, Matt, to be honest.
Sorry,
He's still got to come back. And we've just got Elliot Nevitt. He's just got 25 goals for Crewe last season. He might get on the bench, and we'll see how we go. And we've got Bradley Datt back as well. Okay, fair enough. And we've got Ethan Coleman. We've gone, and the list
honestly
goes on.
We've been on your side of the fence a long time over the last 4 seasons, and I'm not going to apologise for it, because it is nice to be on the other side of it. But
Absolutely.
Again, I really do hope that you guys get yourself sorted out, and I don't want you to go down, and I don't think you will go down because of Derek Adams ultimately. But again, we know where the issues are. We've already said them, but what needs to change quickly?
I think the reality is, Matt, that if we play like we played yesterday at home, against, dare I say, lesser lights in League Two, we'll get enough points on the board to pull ourselves. I mean, my target this season is 47 points. I think we get around the 47 points mark, point a game average, we should be okay, and that will keep us out of the bottom two. We've got to start scoring goals. We could do with a bit more in the final third. There's no question about that. How we wheel and deal to get that before the window ends, or even if we do, I don't know. But it's going to be the Derek Adams factor, Matt, like you say. I think that he's the key. He knows how to eke every single last drop of talent and ability out of the players that we've got in the building at the moment. And that's going to be crucial. It's going to be the players who we've pulled out of non-league and played National League football last season. It's going to be them stepping up. And obviously the players who we retained from last season also hitting the same heights that did last campaign. Put that together, Derek Adams in the mix as well. I think we're going to be okay. But we need to start scoring goals. If we don't start scoring goals soon, then it might, if we're 7, 8, 10 games in and we still haven't scored many, that might be a concern. But to get firing in the final third, I think we're going to be all right.
Yeah, I think, I hope that is what happens. And that's probably my consensus of things as well. I didn't have you in the bottom 2 in my season preview. I think I had you 2 or 3 places above it. And that, again, is a lot to do with Derek Adams and his ability as a manager. Reese, final question comes for you. I think it was fairly obvious to say that Ollie Hawkins and Jules actually certainly had a positive impact on the game yesterday afternoon in terms of just swinging the momentum our way, which ultimately got us over the line. But there was 3 people that I thought that went about their business really well and probably won't get the headlines. I think that midfield pivot of Armani Little and Robbie McKenzie's been very good in the opening 2 games. And my old mate, again, who I make no apologies for being a big fan of, I always have been and always will be, Max Amer, I thought was very, very good for us yesterday. Steps up in so many ways in terms of just having a good, solid game, doing what he says on the tin like we know, being braver in possession to try and to offer a more attacking options, and just helping Shadogi through when Shadogi was probably having a dodgy afternoon, I think it's fair to say. So for me, I think Max Amer would have probably been my man of the match from a Gills perspective.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he was a solid rock back there as well, and showed a bit more versatility as a defender as well, and was a supporting comrade with Oji as well, who really did struggle yesterday, actually. And we know what Oji's capable of, but I think he really found it difficult. I just want to highlight that Armani Little yesterday for me was really good. He just seemed to be everywhere in that centre of the park and always offering something somewhere all the time. And I think that really can be the difference in that midfield, because you've got someone there who's always going to be battling. And I think that pairing along with Mackenzie as well, it's just a lovely little trio going on there, which is just it's fluid, and the chemistry between them is already developing quite nicely. And it just seems a very solid middle of the park that we have at the moment. And like you say, considering we have the bare bones, it still was really nice to see that developing yesterday.
Yeah, and I think someone like Ethan Coleman's going to struggle to get back in the side at the moment,
Yeah.
given the form of them two in there. And this is a player that was Players Player of the Year last season, so that's the strength that we have got at the moment. Not to beat that drum too much for Dave's sake, but any other business before we start wrapping this up?
I just like the look of your squad, Matt. Really, I think you've got a great gaffer. Your squad depth's going to come through in the coming weeks, and I won't use the P word again. I'll be a bit more diplomatic. I would be absolutely astonished if you're not towards the business end of the League Two table come March, April. So I'm looking forward to watching your progression. I'm not looking forward to coming down to play you later in the season, because I think by that point you might well be flying. But we'll see how it goes. But I think if I was a Gillingham fan, Matt and Reese, I would be pretty excited about what might be coming down the track.
Reece, to finish up.
Yeah, I just for any on the Morecambe fans watching, and Dave as well. I've always valued Morecambe being in the league. I've always I wish I could go to Mazuma Stadium and watch the game then when Gills went up there. And I know it's a good day out. And I actually, Morecambe's a very community club, isn't it? I actually know 2 Morecambe fans bizarrely as well. So everyone up there loves the football club, and it's a big part of the community. So I hope whatever's happening off the pitch there is resolved and is sustainable, and we continue to see Morecambe in the Football League. I'm sure we will, actually. I think you'll survive this season. And I think that 47-point mark that you want, Dave, I think you'll be able to achieve that. And I'm sure we'll see Morecambe in the league next season as well. But I do hope things off the pitch, for all Morecambe's sake, get sorted. I really do.
I think that is probably a nice part to end this evening's episode. Thank you, gentlemen, as always. Dave, it's a great pleasure having you on. Top bloke, really nice guy, knows his stuff and loves his football club. And yeah, I can only reiterate what Reece said about Morecambe. I hope it gets sorted out as quickly as possible and they can continue to flourish in the Football League, because I've had a day out there last season. It was brilliant. It's brilliant people, and it's a brilliant little football club, like I say, that is at the heart of community, like Reece has said. If you're still watching at this point, Gills fans, Morecambe fans, and any other football fans, then as I always say, thank you very much. It is greatly appreciated, because the channel is nothing without your support and interaction. Please keep hitting that subscribe button and that like button, because it's absolutely free to do so and it helps me out. We are setting an ambitious target of 4,000 subscribers by the end of the season. So please keep clicking. Dave's details, Reece's details will be in the description at the bottom of the video. Be back middle of the week to talk about Fleetwood next week, another local game for the Gills, another 5 o'clock start for us away fans. It will be my first away day of the season, so myself and Ava and Nick will be on match day live duty next week from Highbury. But until then, hope you've had a good weekend. Enjoy your week, and more importantly, up the Gills.